This is Trans Humanity. Thank you, folks, for taking a greater look at what we are here to bring to the forefront of our trans population and trans community. This is our first video share with Trans Voices Rising entitlements. I want to give a little bit of an introduction before we start. Trans Humanity was started in the forefront of Cleveland, Ohio, from a vision from my trans mother organization, which actually started out with a photo shoot from the Cleveland Museum of Arts called We Are Family. And originally our first product was actually a calendar. And what we're looking to do from that is what we're here to do today. We are here to give a voice to the voiceless and inspire our population for betterments. And to hopefully, with that being said, united as one, change the world. With that being said, I give it over to the rights.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michaela. I am the Chief Director of Advocacy for Trans Humanity. Today, we will be joined by Jolene and Clyde. Jolene is the CEO of Trans Humanity. And Clyde, remind me your title.
The lead director.
Lead Director of Advocacy. Thank you. Sorry. It's tough to remember everybody's title. There are several of us all working together trying to accomplish the same goal. Clyde, you've been with us for about 2.5, 3 months. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I was definitely part of the group for like a considerable amount of time before I joined kind of the whole ranking of everybody.
Well, Clyde, tell us a little bit about yourself. And then after, I'd love to hear from you, Jolene, just a basic introduction of who you are and what your experience is as a transgender person.
I'm 33. I live in Cleveland with my family, my wife, my kids, and my new grandbaby. I just work all the time and do the best that I can, just like everybody else, to try to lead as much of a normal semblance of life as I possibly can, you know, with everything that goes on around us. Not much else, honestly.
Well, Clyde, I've really enjoyed having you as part of our group. I think you bring a new perspective. Most of our group is made up, or of our administration is made up of trans women. So it's very nice to have that diversity coming in and being able to get a different perspective and a different understanding, which I'm really excited about today's episode, because today's episode is going to be focusing on both spectrums of that, experiencing what it's like with HRT. So today's episode is called HRT Chronicles. But before we get into it, Jolene, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, not just your experience with the group, but who you are personally.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think the best way I could sum it up is I am a survivor and an overcomer. My story literally is not from the faint of heart. If you're interested in more of my bio, you can find that on our website, or you can find that on the first video on our YouTube section, which we will link from here to there. But I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I came up from a very conservative, far-right religious family, like many of us. And I started actually at 18, and here I am today. But I'll get a little more into that in just a moment. What really inspires me to share about my story is the fact that I am an overcomer of conversion therapy and also transitioning and retransitioning, which I will talk about. And what's brought me to be inspired about advocacy is literally changing my former nonprofit conversion therapy promoting page actually into the wonderful transhumanity that it is today, and advocacy and all the right things that humanity truly needs for full circled, full range equality to begin with. So I am at 37, now a resident of Akron from Cleveland, and going on our third year of transhumanity. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you. I'm also a trans woman. I started transitioning, let's see, a little over 2 years ago. So I think we all have some pretty good experiences and understanding where we've all been using HRT at different points in our transitions. So I think we all have a little bit to contribute to this particular subject. But let's go ahead and get started. So Jolene, I'm going to ask you my first question. How did you decide to pursue using HRT as part of your transition? Not every trans person chooses to use HRT. So what brought you to that?
Well, originally, transition itself started way back in history from Christine Jorgensen and Lily Ebb and others. It was very experimental, and the surgery and the process and all of that. When I first started my transition, literally when I was 18, almost 15 years ago, even in the mid 2000s, there really was not a whole lot of information. But I knew, like many of us, that I was different. I think that's understanding that we can all relate with, and we can all get around. What I literally had to do in order to get to the process and the brink of transition for myself with HRT was I had to do a little bit of research myself. After I found prominent members who've already done so and those in history, I came across my local Cleveland LGBT Community Center, which at the time, many years ago, actually was underground. Today, it actually happens to be above the ground in a very prominent location in our society. But with underground research and underground studies, I actually came across a local clinic. Some of you in the Cleveland region might know it, McCafferty Health Center through Metro Health, and found HRT through now a colleague of mine, friend of transhumanity, Dr. Henry Eng. He had actually not had a whole lot of experience with trans folks at the time, but when he first met me, it was basically the right thing at first sight. And we started our process with me and beginning my HRT, which I began literally at 21 after counseling. I want to stress this for especially our population, the day and age which we're living in. After much needed counseling, therapy, and evaluation for HRT, I was able to officially begin my process of HRT.
That's awesome. Now, the HRT that you're on, I assume you're on estradiol.
Actually, the estradiol that I am on actually is Valerate. There are actually 3 different options for it. There are shots, there's patches, and there are also the pills as well. For myself, I started off on the pills, but figured, and after research did find that there's actually better results with the estradiol valerate. So that's the particular estrogen that I'm on.
That's cool. I actually am on a different option than those 3. I have pellets. So my doctor makes a small incision, and very similar to how you would have like birth control implanted in your arm. I have estrogen implanted into my thigh, and then I just have it replaced once every year. So I don't take shots or pills or patches or anything like that. I just go to my doctor makes that small incision. puts the pellets that slowly dissolve over time into just above the muscle. It's a little itchy and uncomfortable for a day or two, but it goes away. And then I just don't even have to worry about it. I don't have to keep a schedule or like remember what day it is that, oh, I have to replace the patch or I have to do this. I don't have to worry about those things.
Absolutely. Isn't it remarkable how far research has come?
It really is. And then Clyde, you're on testosterone.
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. And what I don't even know what options there are for testosterone. I mean, I would assume they're similar, but don't you have to take a higher dose?
It's you have pellets, which they don't last as long as say yours do. Pellets usually you have to have new ones put in every 3 to 6 months. There's androgel, and there's two different types of injection. There's ethanate and cypionate. Both just are different carriers for the injections. One's intermuscular and one's subcutaneous. I've been on both injections and the gel. I'm currently on the gel. Not much of a difference for me, except for that I don't have to jab myself every week or every 2 weeks. And
I mean,
for some
nobody
people,
likes that.
yeah, for some people it's very, very hard. The fact that I have and stuff, it was very difficult for me at first. But let's see, I was 19, so this is 2009 when I first came out as being transgender, and I was dealing with an organization called Transgender Resource Center of New Mexico, and it was absolutely just chock full of older transgender males that were, in their 40s and things that had transitioned 10 years before that, or some of them 20 years before that, and I would see them, and they were so masculine, and you could not tell that at one time they had been female, and I just seen them, and I almost idolized them so much because this vision. I come from a very conservative southern little town where up until that point I felt that I was male, but I did not know that there was any possibility or any way that you could transition. No idea. And so I was kind of in the dark, had blinders on. So I meet these guys, and they're just so amazing to me. And I finally feel like I'm at home, like I finally have found my people. And, it just being around these guys, I got all kinds of information I had never had before, and resources, support groups, and it really gave me a place to explore what I really wanted to do, in a safe area where I didn't have to worry about any kind of judgment or any kind of hate. And that was really the first time that I was introduced to what HRT could be. I knew a lot of guys that were on HRT, but at the time, back then, it wasn't necessarily so easy to get on HRT, especially being as young as I was. And so I ended up actually waiting for years. I went on HRT 4 years ago. Before that, I had some facial hair because I had some hormonal issues. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and so that caused some facial hair growth. But I was seeing guys with, you couldn't even tell their voices were so deep, and it changes the shape of your body and everything. And so I really, really wanted that. I had grown up looking at all these guys in my family and around me, and looking at them and being like, that's what I want to be. I just wanted to be another guy out there. I didn't want to stand out or anything like that. I didn't want to look odd or unusual. I just wanted to look like any other guy just walking down the street. And so HRT really, gave that to me. It was an opportunity for me to achieve that. It takes a lot of work also on mannerisms, things like that. But overall, you just look at me walking down the street, you can't really tell much of a difference. And so, those guys really opened that door for me. it took a long time for me to get there, but I'm on the androgel now, and that seems to be working pretty well.
I didn't even know that gel was an option. Like, I mean, I guess
Right.
it's one of those things living in the trans female population, the trans woman population. Like, I just don't spend that much time discussing with trans men what options they have for hormones. So I'm actually really happy we're doing this episode because it's giving me perspective that I didn't have before.
I feel a lot like that trans men are underrepresented. Um, I see lots of trans women in public, like in the public eye and on social media, and like I probably know more about trans women than most trans women know about trans men, just because it's something that I see so much. Like I'm in a group and there's lots of trans women, and of course I pay attention. I figure it's good knowledge to have. I have friends that are trans women, and but I just don't see a lot of representation for trans men out there, and so I really want to bring that forward for us because I feel like that helps validate other guys out there.
Oh, I agree. I wonder if part of it comes down to a question of, like you said, it was very difficult for you to identify that the trans men you were with had at one point been assigned female at birth. Like that was difficult for you to identify. I think for me, a lot of people can look at me and know that I'm a trans woman. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall. I have a relatively deeper voice than most. There are elements that make me more easily identifiable. So I wonder if part of that representation comes down to just that it's easier to notice. Um, but I haven't done a case study, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to make an assumption. It's just a thought, but maybe that's part of the circumstance that you're identifying. Great. What was the first, or what were the first changes, both physically and emotionally, that you noticed when you started HRT?
Oh, when I started HRT, I think one of the first major changes I saw was a change in my voice, for sure. Before I even with having some facial hair and stuff, I still had a pretty high pitched voice, and that almost immediately within the first couple months started to drop.
Wow, that's faster than I would have thought that taking place.
Oh yeah,
Is that typical within the trans male community?
it definitely can be as you start to build cartilage on your vocal cords. Um, Definitely widening of the face. My face, my jawline started to get just a little bit wider within like probably the first 6 months. Definitely more facial hair growth and things like that. But I think a lot of the changes too are emotional. You didn't have aggression that comes forward because testosterone brings those kind of feelings up. You have to really be ready for that kind of emotional roller coaster as you get used to being on testosterone and as they adjust your levels, because in the first few months you have to go in and have your levels tested, and they're fluctuating and they're moving it up and down. And so and definitely within, they say usually within 6 months, I know that mine was within the first few, I stopped menstruating. And so that's something that a lot of people think, oh yay, that's just great. Well, it definitely, it's nice, but it also messes with your moods and things like that. You're kind of putting your body into a new rhythm besides what it's used to being in and what it normally is in. And so it definitely tests you. Your libido increases within the first couple months. Aggression, anger, irritability is not uncommon. But also when I started testosterone, it almost gave me like a little confidence boost. Like, I'm at least on my way. And at first you're like, oh, I can't wait to start seeing signs. I can't wait to start seeing signs. But before you know it, the days have rolled past and you're not counting days anymore. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, my voice is cracking, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, wait, this is kind of cool. And so those changes, just, it's different for everybody when those changes will hit. It also depends on your genetics, hair growth, facial hair growth and stuff. I know people that within a few months that their hairline has started to recede.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just part of being on testosterone. You do not know what the cards are that you're going to be dealt because it's all based on your own genetics.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an effect I never even would have considered. Like, it's interesting. Yeah. It's sometimes I think it's fascinating the effects we don't even consider. Like we know that effects happen, we know that things are taking place, but we don't always take into consideration what those effects are going to be until they're slapping us in the face, right? Like one day suddenly it's just there, right? Um,
Definitely.
yeah,
And
that's fascinating.
that's the human portion we plan to bring to you, the public, from transhumanity. Our genetics are all unique, and we all have different unique stories, and that's part of what we're about. So um, that's one thing I think that we all share in common.
So, Jolene, two questions. The first, did you start HRT on your first transition or only on your second?
So I literally started HRT when I was 21, and I am 37 today. So for a good decade, I was on HRT, and saw the results change my own self. And from there, I had detransitioned, which I stopped everything cold turkey and tried to be the alternate identity of who I was not. I mean, how many of us can relate there? Um, with that being said, it was the facts and the conclusion to those facts that brought me to the truth of who I am today and what we're doing with transhumanity, and ultimately retransitioning at the tail end of 2020. But yes, it was many years ago that I had begun my HRT journey.
Did you notice similar effects the second time around, or were the effects uniquely different?
I would say for myself, it was kind of something that I was a little used to. Ultimately, your doctor will generally say that hormones, some things will be permanent. Some changes for uh, guys, ladies, and those in between are different and will be substantial and will be permanent. So there were some permanent changes that had been made from the decade that had been on HRT, such as breast growth and my body changes. And then at 2020 is when I began to see those results change. And really, I think the biggest significant change for myself retransitioning was really the worthwhile peace that brought to me and my soul and my mind, my heart. I realized that this is who I am. It's just a confirmation. But there have been some substantial changes as well. More development with breast tissue, more development with body changes, and I'm very grateful for that.
What about negative effects? Like, did you experience any unexpected negative side effects from HRT?
I think that's a great question, especially for where we're at in society. As you all know, politically, we're dealing with a society that claims that there can be. What we found as transhumanity is that generally that's a lack of research, a lack of information. For myself, literally what was, I think, the most detrimental part for myself is really getting off of the HRT and trying to be somebody who I was not. For myself, that was literally a death sentence almost. I lived every day in depression and every day was distraught. I felt like I was a walking zombie, somebody who had been there yesterday, but really wasn't there today. And it was a detriment to myself. So coming back full circle to HRT, and a second stint in life really has been a wonderful change for myself, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Clyde, did you experience any negative side effects from HRT, or were they all just positive effects for you?
No, not necessarily all positive. I ended up, like I said, originally I was on injections. I was on testosterone stipinate, which is a cottonseed carrier oil for that. And actually, after like a year and a half of doing injections, I became allergic to the carrier oil in my injections and had to be switched. And then when I tried to switch me to the enanthate oil, then that one was not covered by my insurance unless I failed at using 3 different types of gel. So that's why I'm currently on the gel. I was actually getting probably about that big around on every injection site, a big red rash around my injection site. That was hard. That's actually not an uncommon thing. I have a friend of mine that lives around here too that I hang out with. He has the same allergy. So they've switched him to the pellets. And so with testosterone, you can have some negative side effects. I do have some friends that it has caused a blood disease in. That's because their genetics are prone to that, and the testosterone brings that out. I have a friend that his blood is too thick because of the testosterone, and he has to go and give blood every couple months. He has to get rid of some of those platelets and everything. And that's something that when you start testosterone, they tell you is a possibility. Also, I have high cholesterol, which is exacerbated by testosterone use, because along with the testosterone that I get, right, and all those male hormones and male characteristics, that does not mean that I lose out on any of those. So I have a higher risk of stroke. I have a higher risk of a heart attack. I have higher cholesterol, things like that. So that's something that I had to sit down with my doctor when I first started HRT and have that conversation. She was like telling me, okay, so if you go on testosterone, you've already got high cholesterol. So this is pretty, certain it's going to make your cholesterol go up even more. And this is 4 times the risk of a heart attack, 4 times the risk of a stroke, like a biological male's risk versus a biological woman. So going on testosterone definitely has its risks, and you definitely have to weigh those risks to benefits and see if they're right for you.
That's interesting. I didn't even realize that there was such a significant difference in the possibility of males having certain degenerative diseases over time, and that HRT would play an impact on that. That's valuable information when making a decision of what you want to do.
Absolutely.
It's definitely something you want to consider when it comes to choosing which route to go on HRT, or whether you even want to do HRT. I believe the more informed you are, the better you can make those decisions, because the decisions you make can be permanent. Some things, of course, if you decide to detransition, like Jolene said, will revert back, but there's some things that don't,
Right.
and so informed as you possibly can.
Truth. What about relationships? Like, did you notice a shift in relationships, and how people interacted with like romantic partners, family, friends? Like, did HRT play an impact on how those relationships worked for you?
It definitely has. In my relationship, say romantically, it changes maybe some of the dynamics. Because as you go on to HRT, like I said, it raises your libido and things like that. And it can make you feel differently about things sexually and romantically than you did before. Because your hormones are changing. You get all these new feelings. You're essentially going through puberty. for a second time. And with my family and my friends, mostly my friends, were just supportive and embracing me and happy for me. We're happy that I was finally getting to take those steps that I had been wanting to take for so long. And my family, like, I think that it solidified with my family even more, who's very resistant to me transitioning, might I say. For the most part, I do have a couple sisters that are pretty embracing. But as for like my dad and my mom and my brothers, it just helps to reinforce that this is not a phase or something that I'm unsure of or on a whim, that this is serious and that this is who I am.
And Jolene, how would you say that HRT has affected relationships with you? Do you have the same types of experiences or uniquely different experiences from Clyde?
There's not a day in my life that goes by that I don't think about this very exact subject that you mentioned. Is in my previous video, as I shared about my bio and where I came from and how I've gotten to where I'm at today. And I'm still light years away from where I would like to be. One of the biggest detriments that I've had in my life is really the loss of my family. I tell folks when they ask me about trans community and ask me about advocacy directing, I would not be in this line of work if I did not feel that I needed to be. However, having been served as a poster child for detransitioning and conversion therapy, it was a detriment. Politically, we're in a world right now that really wants to make it a hot subject for detransitioners. And I'm here to tell you that there is a difference between being your true self and being who you're not meant to be. And that is one of the biggest subject matters we want to stress in trans humanity and get the line across with our allies and our LGBT community, as it were. With myself, I remember at 18 coming with facts about Christine Jorgensen and Renee Richards, of bringing it to my folks and asking them to research it when I was in college many years ago. At 37 here today, unfortunately, I have to inform the world that things have now changed. And it's very unfortunate. I had an opportunity for GCS, actually, which is gender confirmation surgery for those who are beginning to know, last year. And unfortunately, both my parents actually had teamed up against my transition. He had a one-on-one with me and decided to tell me that transition was not needed and was invalid, and that my gender surgery and my transition, as with many of us, with those of that mindset, is not what it should be, should not be able to be changed. And I don't exist as Jolene basically in the first place. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm very much alive and very much real. And this journey that we're going to take you on regarding trans community is here to change all that, one story at a time. But my story, as I've shared, is not for the faint of heart. It's been difficult full circle. Transition HRT has been a wonderful benefit to my life, but in regards to the detriments, I think the biggest loss for me has unfortunately been relationally.
I'm sorry to hear that. I feel like I can relate to some of that experience, though mine's uniquely different from yours. What you said resonated with me from my own upbringing and where transitioning took me. But we're not going to get into me in today's interview. I want to get back to you guys. So Clyde, tell me, did HRT affect your gender dysphoria? I haven't even asked you, did you experience gender dysphoria before? And has HRT affected your gender dysphoria?
Yes, I definitely did have gender dysphoria before. HRT did affect it some. It did help make me feel like I passed a little bit better. As to be able to use like the men's bathroom easier and without feeling like I stood out so much. And I believe that with HRT, like it's been beneficial to help with my dysphoria, as it also played hand in hand with my surgical procedures. Um, so I was on HRT for a year before I had my chest done, which allowed my body to be more masculinized in my chest and my muscle formation and stuff before I had my surgery. And then after I had my surgery, I feel like I ended up having even more results from HRT because I had surgery. I lost most of my chest hair. And of course, I was panicked. I was like, oh my God, I lost all this chest hair. I worked so hard to get it. And then a couple of months, I had more chest hair than I had originally had. And I was like, oh, look, he's back. Yes. And so I think that HRT is such a process, at least on the transmasculine side, that you just don't know what you're going to get throughout the time. They say like for max results is like 5 years, and after that you're kind of just sustaining. And so I'm on year like 3 and I'm still noticing changes. And so it's still changing my dysphoria to this day. The more thicker my arm hair gets, that doesn't look as fine, and the less patchy my beard is getting as I age and as I use testosterone more and more, and as my hormones change, the better that I feel about myself. I mean, personally.
That's great. That makes me so happy that you have that positive experience. I also have a very positive experience toward HRT. Jolene, you've had 2 different sets of experiences with HRT. So why don't you tell us about your feelings and how HRT impacted your gender dysphoria?
Well, as I've shared, I think we can all relate at an early age. We know that we're different. We know that something's different, right? And what kind of brings us to the brink of transition is to become our true selves, to let that inner feeling become our true essence, our true identity. For myself, it really was just that. The whole way through, have felt a major confirmation in who I am, and just elevated confidence in my identity as things have changed, as my body has blossomed and formed and repositioned itself. I've been very grateful with the results that has taken place. As I've stated previously, not everyone has been grateful with that, but for myself, I have been elated. I have been very ecstatic at how much of a difference it's made in my own life. Positive thinking, body changes, all of it. I don't have anything negative to say about HRT, and you're not going to find that from transhumanity either. I'm very grateful for everything that's happened. I look forward to what's ahead.
That's wonderful. I'm happy you both had positive experiences. Are there specific societal, cultural attitudes toward HRT specifically that either of you have encountered? Silence is going to indicate to me that probably not. I guess I probably should have provided a little bit better of an example. For me, when I started transitioning, I spent about 6 months trying to really just know who I am as a person, trying to identify who Michaela is. But at the time, like, I didn't know I was going to be transitioning. I was trying to find some middle ground. So I was in this almost gender fluid state. I have a lot of masculine characteristics to my personality. A lot of those are probably based on upbringing, but those things exist in my life. And at the time, I was working a very masculine job, or a job that's asserted to masculinity. So trying to find how I was going to adapt to accepting my gender identity was a little bit more complex for me. And the first 6 months, people were quite accepting of me being male, wearing makeup, dressing more effeminately, but fitting into an androgynous space. As soon as I started taking hormones, I started seeing negative impacts from the people around me who, once realizing that I'm taking those steps to fully transition, they were not as accepting as they had been prior. I lost friends, I lost family. Um, there was a lot of complexity that existed for me. So this is kind of the thought that I have with this question is, was this something that you also experienced, or was this just, or were these feelings just feelings that were specific to transitioning and not HRT itself?
I was always very particular about my friends, so I didn't lose friends per se, because I always had looked for people that really supported me 100%. I've always been a little off the wall, so the people that I have in my friend group are pretty much riders. They stay with me. Um, my family, some of my extended family, they don't even, because this is not part of their vision of what it should be or what I should be. I know that when I was like 18, I was stuck kind of in that middle ground, trying to figure out, like, because that was at a time I really didn't know that you could transition. I was just finding out, and I was like weighing my options. What can I do? And is this a possibility for me? And during that time, when I decided to transition, I had a lot of pushback, as I tried to break through all of that. A lot of negative at me as well. Yeah.
I can relate with that myself. Honestly, as I just had stated on some of the previous questions, I grew up with a very conservative family. My best friend actually growing up was a Marine lieutenant. And when I first came out, I informed the public that I was going to transition. It was detrimental. It was a difficult undertaking for me to do, even at age 18. Coming from the military, far right religious family that I came from, I was literally disowned, and I was kicked out of my home. I was made to be homeless. Before that, I was institutionalized. After that, I went to conversion therapy in the heart of the Bible Belt in Tennessee for 6 months. And it has been a hell of a ride ever since with those I love. But I want to mention just a reference. For many of us, that's why we have such a thing as a chosen family, and that's who I reside with today. But yes, to answer the question, it's been very difficult. The persona that I had put on or put off to the world, rather, was that of a minister. I was a minister in training, and when it came to the conclusion and the inner faith circle that I was a part of, I was strongly condemned and abandoned and strictly forgotten about. That is probably my greatest reason why transhumanity exists in the first place, to make a difference in this world, to make sure that that doesn't happen for those who come after myself and after us. It should not be that way, but for myself in particularly, that has been the case. Transitioning has not been without a bittersweet journey. And it has generally been for many of us, for myself and particularly as I just shared, it's been no difference.
Based on your experience, what improvements could be made to help individuals better navigate seeking HRT through different healthcare systems?
Well, I think the primary biggest thing that can be done is to have a supportive inner circle around you. Those are friends, those are family members. Um, Recently, my aunt has actually come around to support me and announced to me finally that she is actually in support of what I am and who I am today and what I'm doing. But I think, measures that can take place, you know, trans humanity wants to side on the side of the facts and the results and the truth regarding this matter. So I think the first thing I would bring up is the what's regarded in the DSM-5, the standards of care, as it were, for all of us. I think that's goes without saying. I think that's fundamental. And having a doctor that's willing to love you for who you are and accept you genuinely for who you are, and really wants to undergo the process of caring for you with HRT results. In doing so, I could say for myself that has been a very worthwhile time. I'm connected now with Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the highest medical facilities in the land, and their practice has been absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend that. That's something that I think in today's politics and today's world we don't hear enough about. We see the results, we don't know what all the process takes place, and a lot of the politicians are unaware of just what goes into our lives to become the men, woman, and gender variant people that we are today. So I think those are some measures that can be taken place. But care, love, support, uh, unconditional acceptance, I think are really fundamental to the HRT process.
Clyde, what advice would you offer to individuals who are wanting to begin HRT?
Well, the first thing is I would definitely think about it, and do your research, weigh your options. And one of the big ones is going to be finding a physician that you are comfortable with, that you feel safe with, and supported by. I currently go through Metro's Pride Clinic, like hands down, the most wonderful people I ever met in my life. I swear. I swear.
Absolutely. We fully support that with trans humanity as well.
I,
Mental
I, go,
health is
I go to the Pride Clinic and they are so accepting, so affirming, supportive, more than happy to help and coordinate and send letters and help you every step of the way with every question. And so I think that finding that support system medically is one of the biggest, because we're not always going to have our families. Lord knows I didn't. Like I said, I've got two sisters that have supported me now, that are very supportive, and that makes a big difference too. But not everybody is going to have that. You can't force your family to be there for you. But when it comes to your medical caregivers, that you do have control over. So I feel like if you're trying to start HRT, or you're in the beginning processes, of starting HRT, and you do not feel safe with the provider that you have, you don't feel comfortable with the provider that you have, they are not affirming, they're not trying to give you the best care, that you should seek alternative care, because there are so many out there now that time has passed and there are new programs, and I found the most supportive here in Cleveland.
I think that's wonderful. I don't believe there's anything like that where I am. Uh, Probably something I should look into, but I'm not aware of anything like that existing out here. I think that's really great that that's offered somewhere. this is news to me that this even existed anywhere. So I think that's pretty exciting. And for the people who are in your area, I think that's a wonderful opportunity for them to be able to take advantage of.
Most definitely. We see a lot of guys going to Planned Parenthood to get testosterone, and I feel like they're really underinformed when they go there. I mean, no bashing to Planned Parenthood, because for a lot of people, that is the only access that they're able to get. But hopefully through things, we work on getting more places where they're experienced with transgender people and they can give that kind of care that we need. I remember a time where I used to have to carry this pamphlet that was like this thick around with me to the doctor's office. They'd be like, here, read this, because this is me. This is how you take care of me. And they're like, what? Oh, God. Like, you used to have to carry around a stack of papers stapled together and be like, this is how you're supposed to care for transgender individuals, and give it to them. Back when they sent you to the endocrinologist and all these other doctors, and everybody was going, well, we don't know what to do. So it's definitely come a long way.
Sounds messy, but yeah, it definitely sounds like we've come a long way. Do either of you feel like we've missed anything that we needed to address in this section that we haven't addressed yet?
I think with HRT, everything is about being fully informed, knowing the pros, the cons, the outcomes, the possibilities, because those could be surprising factors. I mean, you don't want to take testosterone and all of a sudden your hairlines are receding and you go bald and you go, I didn't know that was going to happen, and that can, some people get adverse things like that. And that's where some of that negative from, oh, well, I didn't know. It's just a lack of information.
With Trans Humanity, obviously as an organization, we want to encourage the general public to do your research. I think knowledge is power, and the greatest weapon that we have against adversity, especially in this day and age, is being well versed and well informed of our audience, and also who we are and what we're about. And that doesn't happen overnight, but the more you do research and the more you realize who you are, the more stronger of an individual you will be. But I want to also encourage, no one is an island. We all need support. Trans Humanity here, we are family. We are a team. And I want to encourage each and every one of you out there as well that it's definitely important to, as Clyde so brilliantly said, do your research, be well versed in what you are undertaking. These are life-changing results, and in many ways, there is no going back from what you undergo. However, you can seem and look into what you are about and who you are becoming, and with that knowledge, that power, become a greater individual moving forward into the future. And that's really our goal as an organization for our population, all gender variant people, but particularly for transgender. Having that support team and doing that research, I think, is absolutely fundamental.
I completely agree with you. I think that's very, very important. I think it surprises me how often people start HRT and then start asking questions like, hey, have you noticed this or have you noticed that? And I'm like, your doctor should have told you this. Like you should have, take the time to know.
It almost feels like that information ends up getting gatekeeped on us. They're not fully informing people, and you have to dig. And I just feel like more people should just ask the questions. People find somebody, a mentor. The internet is so wide these days. If you can't find a trans woman or trans man in your town, I'm pretty sure you can find one on the internet.
And that is what Trans Humanity is all about. We are here to provide that given support. Those facts that you're looking to research, do not hesitate to ask us for questions. Ask us for those results. As Clyde said, we also have resources, we are providing on our website. You can certainly take a look at that, talk to any of the members on staff here at Trans Humanity, and we are there to provide information and mutual support and the information that you will need in order to progress in your life as a beautiful men, woman, and gender variant people that we are, especially not non-binary and transgender. But with that being said, there unfortunately today is a sense of gatekeeping, and I think that's from both sides. With Trans Humanity, we are here to change that and up the game, be a game changer for our lives. So that is part of our mission objective, if you will, and we are grateful to provide that to our population.
Thank you. And thank you both so much for your time. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to interview you today.
Thanks for having me.
With that, I want to give a closing message. I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting Trans Humanity. We've been 3 years in running, as I stated with the introduction, and with the information that both Michaela and Clyde have brought today. This is information that's pinnacle, that's really not being brought from other sources. We do want to be a game changer, not only for our population, but for our lives. One thing I want to give a segue just momentarily about, here in the state of Ohio, we have had a governor who has actually declined medical hormonal treatment and surgery for transgender youth. And we want to state publicly today that we fully support our transgender youth 100,000%. We will stand behind you, and we will offer the support that you need. If you need a hand in friendship, here we are. We are here to stand and walk beside you. What Governor DeWine had done is absolutely wrong. We will state that publicly. And you can count on Trans Humanity to keep on fighting for you. We will fight the war here, and we will win with our organization and with those that support around us. We are an organization that is not solely biased for us against others. We are here to bring our population in and be about who and what we as a people are about. And that is transformation. We believe that transformation is possible in our society. We will not stop fighting for you, and we want to let you know. I want to let you know publicly, as the director of Trans Humanity, I love and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. There's not a day that I don't wake up that I'm not grateful for your support. So thank you. Also, we have a boutique called Trans Humanity Boutique. You can check out. Every product that is purchased will go to supporting our organization in our endeavors as an organization. We are looking to rise, and we're looking to invite you on this journey with us. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in Trans Humanity in each and every one of us. Love and support to all of us.